He didn't just try to conquer Europe with armies, he tried to bankrupt it. One man, one financial weapon, and it almost worked. The crazy part, most people have never heard of it. Welcome to Untold Wealth Theory, where the money stories that actually shaped the world finally get told. It's 1803. Napoleon Bonaparte is staring at a map of Europe inside the Tuileries Palace. He's already rewritten the legal system of a continent, built a central bank from scratch, and won wars that military historians still study today. But none of that is what's keeping him up at night. What's keeping him up is Britain. Napoleon knows that every time he marches across Europe, British money is funding his enemies. Not British soldiers, British gold. The Bank of England is quietly financing Austria, Prussia, Russia, anyone willing to put men in front of French bayonets. Napoleon can beat those armies. He's proven that, but he cannot beat the money behind them. So he asks a different question. What if you don't defeat an empire through war? What if you destroy it through its currency? This is where the story gets dangerous. Britain's real power wasn't its navy, it was its credit. The British government was funding wars through debt, borrowing, issuing bonds, spending money it hadn't collected yet, and the entire system ran on one thing: confidence. Confidence that Britain could always pay back what it owed. The moment that confidence cracked, the whole structure could fall. Napoleon's plan was simple in theory, brutal in practice. Flood Britain with counterfeit money, not a little, a coordinated massive flood. Fake Bank of England notes, printed in France, smuggled across the Channel, released into circulation at scale. The goal wasn't theft. The goal was to destroy trust in paper money itself. Think about what follows. Merchants stop accepting banknotes. Banks get buried in suspicious currency. Credit freezes. Prices spike. The government panics. And suddenly the most financially sophisticated nation on earth is paralysed by paper. Napoleon wasn't guessing at the damage this could cause. He had watched France's own revolutionary currency, the assignat, collapse into worthlessness, creating food riots and political chaos that ultimately brought him to power. He knew exactly what financial panic looked like from the inside, and he intended to export it. The operation was real. French printing facilities produced counterfeit Bank of England notes, crafted to pass at the banks and counting houses, not just street-level transactions. By some historical estimates, millions of pounds in fake notes circulated during the Napoleonic Wars. The British government knew counterfeiting was happening. They just didn't grasp the strategy behind it. Here's what most history books skip entirely. The Bank of England's response: new note designs, tighter authentication, harsh legal penalties for passing fakes. These weren't routine upgrades. They were emergency measures against a deliberate financial warfare campaign run from Paris. Napoleon was, without knowing it, pressure testing the foundations of modern central banking. And the Bank of England got stronger because of it. But counterfeiting was only one piece. In 1806, Napoleon launched something far bigger: the Continental System, a Europe-wide economic blockade. No nation under French control could import British goods. Trade with British merchants was banned, and British ships couldn't enter their ports. The theory was strangulation. Cut Britain off from European markets. Its factories would idle, its tax revenues would collapse, and its war debt would become unpayable. On paper, genius. In practice, one of the most expensive mistakes of Napoleon's career, Britain didn't collapse. It adapted. Merchants rerouted to South America, India, and the Caribbean. New markets opened faster than European ones closed, and the nations inside Napoleon's blockade, they were the ones choking. Coffee vanished from French markets. Sugar became a luxury. Dutch shipping collapsed entirely. The weapon Napoleon aimed at Britain kept exploding in his own hands. If you're finding this story as wild as I did, subscribe to Untold Wealth Theory. This is exactly the kind of financial history we dig into every week. Here's the 7-minute pattern break that reframes everything. Napoleon's economic war didn't fail because it was a bad idea. It failed because he was fighting a system fundamentally more flexible than his own. Britain had a mature, decentralised private credit market. Its banks weren't government tools. They were independent institutions that could absorb shocks, adapt routes, innovate under pressure. When Napoleon counterfeited British notes, the Bank of England redesigned them and moved on. When he blocked European trade, British merchants found other continents. Every blow Napoleon landed made Britain's financial system harder. He thought he was attacking a weakness. He was actually strengthening the thing he hated. The final twist of this story involves a name most people know, Rothschild. Napoleon's defeat at Waterloo in 1815 wasn't just a military event, it was financed. The Rothschild banking family, operating out of London, managed the flow of British subsidies to Allied armies across Europe. Nathan Meyer Rothschild moved gold through smuggling networks. They ran directly across Napoleon's own blockades. He made money on every shipment. He used intelligence about battlefield outcomes to make bond trades. That built one of the great private fortunes in history. The man who tried to bankrupt Britain was ultimately defeated by an army funded through the very financial networks he'd spent 15 years trying to destroy. History doesn't do irony softly. Napoleon died in 1821, a prisoner on St Helena. His economic war lasted 15 years. It fractured his alliances, and it failed to land a single decisive blow against British financial power. But here's what the textbooks leave out. It wasn't pointless. Every attack he made on Britain's financial system forced that system to adapt and harden. Anti-counterfeiting standards, central bank independence, sophisticated war financing, bond market innovation. These weren't inevitable developments. They were pressure tested into existence by Napoleon's campaign. His plan to bankrupt Britain failed, but in failing, it helped build the financial architecture that ran the world for 2 centuries. That's not a small legacy for a plan that never fully worked. Drop a comment below. Do you think Napoleon's economic warfare was ahead of its time? Or was it always going to fail against a flexible market system? This debate is alive in modern sanctions policy right now. And I want to hear your take. If this story changed how you see financial history, share it with someone who thinks economics is boring. Wars aren't always won with weapons. Sometimes the most powerful battlefield is a vault.